China and the United States wrap up the comprehensive economic dialogue in Washington, D.C. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. When Chinese President Xi Jinping visited the United States in April, he and U.S. President Donald Trump unveiled a 100-day action plan on trade. That plan has come to a close with many major accomplishments for both sides. These triumphs were hailed at this week's Comprehensive Economic Dialogue in Washington, D.C. CGTN's Jessica Stone attended those meetings. She joins us now from the White House. And Jessica, the U.S. and China have just wrapped up this first round of Comprehensive Economic Dialogue. What's the latest?
Well, we just got a statement from the Treasury and Commerce Departments of the United States just in the last half hour characterizing what they think happened. Largely nothing new to announce, but they do say this, quote, China acknowledged our shared objective to reduce the trade deficit, which both sides will work cooperatively to achieve. They also say the principles of balance, fairness, and reciprocity on matters of trade will continue to guide the American position so we can give American workers and businesses an opportunity to compete on a level playing field. We do expect the Chinese to give a statement and possibly a press release later on this evening, but it's worth noting that a planned joint press conference, or excuse me, simultaneous press conferences were both canceled just after the opening statements were given this morning, and it was really not so surprising when you consider the words and the tenor and the tone that was set by those speeches. Let me have you take a listen.
China and the U.S. are each other's biggest trading partner and an important source of investment. Cooperation is a realistic choice for both sides. Dialogue cannot immediately address all differences, but confrontation will immediately damage the interests of both.
China now accounts for nearly 50% of the U.S. goods trade deficit. If this were just the natural product of free market forces, we could understand it, but it's not. And so it is time to rebalance our trade and investment relationship in a more fair, equitable, and reciprocal manner.
Now, this focus by the United States on reducing the trade deficit seemed to take a back seat to some of the other pressing strategic issues that the U.S. and China were working on, especially the DPRK. But in the last 6 weeks or so, we've seen a marked change in tenor and tone in the relationship set by the White House. Most of the 10 things that were listed in that 100-day plan, though, were achieved or are in the process of being achieved. But at this point, Secretary Ross also says that the hardest things are left to do. The easy things have already been done.
Right, and Jessica, as we just saw the Vice Premier talking today, emphasizing that despite differences, the China-U.S. economic relationship will continue to progress. What can we expect after these talks?
Well, they're certainly going to continue their talks. There are 2 more dialogues scheduled, but we don't really have a reasonable expectation of seeing a lot of tangible results in the outcomes coming out of today's talks. That said, they were supposed to talk about a 1-year plan after this 100-day plan. We're still waiting to see if that's going to be released as the 100-day plan was. But it's no small irony that at the same time this was going on, U.S. President Donald Trump was running a Made in America event all week long here at the White House, talking about how to restore the Made in the USA brand globally, talking to American manufacturers about what they need to keep jobs in the United States. He really is focused on reducing this trade deficit with China, which is, of course, around $347 billion. You know, Chinese Vice Premier Wang Yang gave him a way to do that in his remarks, though. He said, listen, if you put us on the same level playing field with Brazil in terms of export barriers, you will knock down the U.S.-China trade deficit by as much as 24%. And that's coming, he says, from one of the U.S. think tanks that's done that very research. So there is a lot of back and forth yet to come, and we'll see that with the cyber dialogue and the other dialogues yet to come.
No doubt we will in the weeks and months ahead. That was Jessica Stone reporting from the White House.